Hello, everyone, and welcome into episode number 16 of the Vultures Row podcast. I'm your host, Joey Bonsanti. Sitting across from me, as always, Tony Vegas. No Pat tonight. He has father duties. Being a dad takes precedent over our Jets podcast, unfortunately. So no Pat tonight on this secondary episode in the docuseries that we're going to be running all summer. Tony, how we doing? How we feeling tonight?
I'm good, man. I mean, shame on Pat. You know, this team takes precedent in both of our lives over just about everything. No, I'm just kidding, obviously, but we're doing good. OTAs are rolling. We're getting some cool slow-mo videos from the Jets media team. They do great work, and I feel like it's illegal to post a like a normal non-slow-mo video before September. I feel like it's only slow motion videos. So yeah, it's great. I mean, hearing some good things out of camp. Aaron Glenn really seems to be putting the clamps down, and we're going to be talking some secondary today. So I'm looking forward to it.
Absolutely. It's funny you bring that up. It takes like about 10 seconds for the ball to leave Justin Fields' hands to get to Garrett Wilson. But again, any content that we could get at this point in the year is great content. So yes, as you mentioned, we're going to be, we did the defensive line. Then I did the one-on-one with Hembo. I will link that in the YouTube at the end. If you didn't catch that, honestly, if you're a Jets fan, looking to see what Fields can do, potentially grow in this offense, I would definitely check that out. Hembo did a great job. But today we're going to be getting into the secondary. Tony, I'll start with you. So kind of if you
Are you going to start with me?
I have no choice. It has to be you. If you guys are just joining in and didn't see the first episode of this docuseries, we essentially just look at one position group from last year, comparing it to this year, seeing if they could be better year over year. This week we're doing the secondary. So Tony, like you said, I'm going to have to start with you this week. Go ahead, buddy.
Yeah, I mean, so the secondary, it's an interesting group because there were some additions, there were some departures, and I feel like it's very subjective. Like, it depends how high you are on guys like Andre Sisco, who came in, and how low or high you are on guys like DJ Reed, who left. So I'm going to give you some like quick hitting points on how I feel about some of the additions and departures. DJ Reed, I think he was a really good signing. I think we got everything that we wanted out of him. Like, how long was he here? 3 years,
3 years,
I believe.
Yep.
2 really good years, and I think he took a little bit of a step back last year. I just don't think he came with the same juice that he had in his first 2 years as a Jet. But one of it was a great contract. You can't fault Joe Douglas for that one. So his departure to Detroit, obviously it's a hit. You replace him with a guy like Brandon Stevens, who is one of the most polarizing guys I feel like we added this offseason.
In one way or another.
Yeah. I'm a little more high on Stevens than I think others might be. I don't like the fact that he's not great in terms of causing turnovers, which seems to be this secondary's weakness, but I feel like they made up for that a little bit with guys like Andre Sisco. I mean, the safety group for the past, what feels like 5 years at this point, since Jamal Adams and Marcus May left, it's been an abysmal group. So to be able to add a guy like Andre Sisco, who had a down year last year, but I mean, he's 24. He has some good years under his belt. I think there's some like untapped potential there. And he does have a little bit of that takeaway ability, which I think this defense is so badly missed. You lose Eccles too. You replace him with Thomas, which I think is a huge upgrade. And you know what? They kind of hedged their bet with Brandon Stevens with that Thomas pick, because let's just say Brandon Stevens is a complete disaster. You have AZ Thomas, who you can at least give him a shot at the CB2 job a little bit earlier than you'd like, which I don't mind. But overall, I feel like it kind of moved laterally, and obviously Sauce Gardner's like a big part of this conversation. I'll let you touch on him a little bit, but just looking at the bodies in versus bodies out, is bodies out Brandon Eccles, DJ Reed, who else?
Chuck Clark is a free agent.
Chuck Clark, I feel like
Ashton Davis went to Miami.
Yeah. And then they added
Jalen Mills as well, but he was kind of second half. He actually played pretty well for the Jets.
Yeah, he was
down
solid.
The stretch.
And then they added Stevens, AZ Thomas, and
Cisco.
in Cisco
and Malachi Moore in the draft.
and
So
Malachi Moore. So I'll let you touch on a little bit of the guys that I didn't touch on there, but we'll group together our thoughts.
yeah, absolutely. And I'll kind of give my opening statements here. And I have both of what the secondary room looked like last year compared to this year. And I think untapped potential is kind of what I see in this year's group. Like you said, you mentioned Cisco, AZ Thomas. You got Malachi Moore, who I think is probably going to start very early on, if not in the beginning of the season. I think Tony Adams' job is up for grabs, honestly.
Oh yeah.
And I think Malachi Moore is right there to take that job. I like pulling numbers, so I'm going to read some stuff off. There was a lot of positives and negatives. More, I think, surprising positive notes. But then again, when you look at the structure of the team last year, I think a lot of the damage was done on the ground against us. So it kind of does make sense when it all adds up. So the Jets finished 27th in picks at 7. I feel like this team never can generate turnovers. I would love to see the New York Jets be in that top echelon of turnovers. Again, I just feel like we're always in the lower end there. The Jets had 43 PBUs, which ranks 25th in the league, so not great. They also allowed 20 first downs a game, which ranked 25th in the league. And the Jets became the only team to miss 20 tackles in a game twice this season. So the missed tackles is a big thing too, especially, when you look at Sauce. That was one of his, I think, I don't really know how to put it. I guess part of like a down part of his game this past year. But I do want to back up a little bit and touch on Sauce for a lot of people who were giving him negative feedback from last year. The guy comes in, he's 2 All-Pros, right? Last year he has a down year, which essentially could be looked at as, and I've seen a lot of people say this, career years for other cornerbacks. And I think everyone just has to take a step back here. We have someone who is locked in as CB1 right now. We are hopefully going to extend him and make him our cornerback 1 for years to come. And it's a position that we essentially don't have to worry about. It's almost like Garrett Wilson on the opposite side. Like, we know we have that wide receiver 1, hopefully. I think we all just need, if you are down on Sauce Gardner after last year, I would just say, when is the last time you've seen someone on our team start the first 2 years as an All-Pro, especially at the cornerback position? And don't even bring up interceptions as a talking point, because we all know that whole notion where if cornerbacks don't get picks, they're not good. That's not true.
Darrelle Revis is our best player of all time, and I don't think he was like an interception merchant.
Exactly, because they don't get the ball thrown to him. That's pretty obvious. So let's go on some positives. I know I just spewed a bunch of negative information, but there was some positives. They ranked 4th in the league, giving up only 192 yards per game, which is good. 3rd in yards per play at 5 yards, and allowed on average a 56.8 QBR, which ranks 17th in the league, pretty middle of the pack. So there's some numbers to digest. And I do think that overall, I agree with you. I think it's a pretty lateral group, but there's a lot more upside in this group. Like Chuck Clark coming off the injury, I was happy when he came in from Baltimore, but once he got injured, I didn't really feel like he had that high upside as he did the year coming in prior.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. And just back to Sauce real quick, I think you're completely right. I mean, it's ridiculous that I see some people on Twitter that, aren't completely confident in his abilities. And like you said, man, like, we don't get like players, especially at skill positions, that are this good. And I guess we finally got one. And because of that, he's under this insane microscope. There are some holes in his game. He's not perfect, and he's not Darrelle Revis. Again, just that microscope. The first 2 years, we were thinking, like, this guy's on a Darrelle Revis trajectory, like all this stuff. No, he's not Darrelle Revis. Darrelle Revis is, in my opinion, the best coverage corner in NFL history. So, no, that's not a fair bar to hold him to. And Darrelle Revis was also a good tackler. Clearly, Sauce Gardner is not a good tackler. And I think that's just one of the things you're going to have to live with. Does that mean that he shouldn't be the highest paid cornerback in the NFL after this training camp? No, I think he should be. And I think he's a player that wants to be here. There are parts of him where I wish he was a little more tame, like on social media and things like that. But want to what, man? That's not up to me, or it's not up to you. It's up to Sauce, and he can go ahead and live his life as long as he's locking down wide receiver 1. I mean, he's fast, he's big. Some of the calls, like he was called a little differently in terms of like refereeing last year, I feel like. So if you get to see that swing a little bit, I think he's going to return back to like the all pro that we're used to. And I am super high on Azariel, AZ Tom. I can't pronounce his first name.
Zaria
It,
Thomas, yeah.
Azaria Thomas. I just, the more at first when we picked him, I was like, okay, they took a corner, whatever. The more you watch of him, dude, I really truly do believe this kid's 20 years old. He's big, he's lengthy, and he's perfect for the scheme that they're going to try to run. And I think that's a huge piece to this puzzle. The Jets are going to blitz more and they're going to run more man coverage. You know, Salah's defense was very zone based. You know, they would drop back their corners in a zone defense. And I just think that like Sauce Gardner and AZ Thomas and Brandon Stevens, they all fit the same archetype of like, okay, they're 6'2" or 6'1". They have really long arms. They're pretty fast. Thomas is a little on the slower side, but you know, they can stick to receivers, and it's going to let, you know, a blitzing Quincy Williams or Jamian Sherwood or, you know, God willing, Quinton Williams, whoever, you know, get to the quarterback. I think that's going to be the key here. Steve Wilkes' defense is going to look completely different. And I think they aren't building, like, they're not just collecting talent. I think they're building a team for the first time in a while. And it's one of the more encouraging things that I've seen out of this regime, that they're really going for guys that are going to fit their scheme. And like these guys are going to be really good man coverage corners, and it's exciting. And you know, you're going to have a little bit more safety help, because at the end of the day, you know, I gave DJ Reed shit earlier. They had no safety help last year, and that's like a huge part of this puzzle, because at the end of the, like, if you're pressing a guy in man coverage and you have to be like, fuck this safety, I don't know, this 5'10" Tony Adams, I don't know what the hell he's going to do behind me. To have like a little bit more of a trust between corner and safety, I think it's going to instill a lot more confidence in these guys when they're, you know, pressing in man. And it's going to be a huge piece to this. And lastly, we know this for a fact, Michael Carter is obviously coming off of what we believe is a little bit of a down year, but that dude was hurt, like to the point where he should not have been playing last year. And I think that's hit the Twitter timeline at this point. He was really hurt. He should have been shut down. I think it was his hip that was banged up, and he should have been shut down. But these guys were fighting for their jobs, and you know, obviously Michael Carter is going to play if he can. In reality, he shouldn't have. He's a really good slot corner, and there's a reason he got paid that contract. I feel like we kind of forgot how good he can be. Great locker room guy, really smart. Probably one of the smartest players on this football team in terms of football IQ. I think that's going to be really, really big to have him back healthy. And I dare I say he's kind of like the X factor. I mean, if he turns into, you know, if he goes back to being one of the best slot corners in the NFL, you have Sauce Gardner on the outside, and you have one of AZ Thomas, Brandon Stevens at CB2. I think it's going to go Brandon Stevens to start, and then Thomas by like week 8 or something. That's my prediction. And a little bit better safety play. There's absolutely room for this group to be, I don't want to say like a strong point of the team, but it certainly won't be a weakness. And that's definitely something that, you know, it's going to be a positive compared to last year.
When you look at each tier too, you can probably argue I at least probably feel the most confident in this group compared to our, you know, linebackers, compared to our defensive line. I actually really like the upside of this group. And before I move to corners, I just want to talk on the safeties a little bit more, because you talked about that safety help last year, and how there was no reliability there. There was one more stat that I wanted to read off about the safety group. The safeties combined to allow 9 touchdowns in coverage, with the significant portions of those touchdowns coming in the red zone. That was the 7th most among safety units last year, which is not great. So, with that being said, you bring in a guy like Andre Cisco, who I am like ridiculously high on, just because he had a down year last year. I just love, like you said, they're bringing in guys, and I know he's not a cornerback, just long, lengthy, big dudes. And then that's when I want to shift to the corners. Brandon Stevens has grown on me, mostly because of how I've seen them draft too. Like when they went and got out AZ Thomas, and this is a great point that you had mentioned, they all have a very similar build, right? They're all very lengthy. They're all very long. I think they're trying to get them to be like not the same, but just complement each other. And I feel like it's really going to work. I'm hoping that it works. But overall, this group, when I look at it as a whole, like if I read you off the names we had last year compared to this year, and I know the Stevens to DJ Reed is probably right now looked at as a downgrade, but I mean, let me read you these two groups and you tell me like which group you take. Sauce, DJ Reed, Michael Carter II, Eccles, Tony Adams, Chuck Clark, Ashton Davis, Bernard Converse, Jalen Mills, Jarius Monroe, Stiggers, etc. To this year, Sauce, Brandon Stevens, Michael Carter II, Cisco, Tony Adams, AZ Thomas, Isaiah Oliver, who I forgot to mention in 24 as well, Malachi Moore, Stiggers, Bernard Converse. Like, I really like this year's group. And I think, like you said, healthy Michael Carter II, AZ Thomas, who, I mean, realistically should have went in the top 35, top 40, you could argue. So I really think that the upside of this year's group is going to be all like I think two rookies are going to end up starting for this defense. I think Malachi Moore and AZ Thomas later in the season are going to start for this defense. I think they're going to be really good. And that would be a home run draft, by the way. I know we're not talking about the draft, but that would be a home run draft if also Membu works out as well.
Yeah, I mean, if you get 3 starters in the draft, I think that's insane. More than you can really ask for. And yeah, man, it's funny. You hop on an episode with Hembo, and now all of a sudden you're spitting out stats like a calculator. I love it.
He inspired me. What can I say?
You're going to be the new stat guy. I love this. We needed one.
I brought the stats last week, and I just, it's hard to look at stats from a secondary perspective. I think a lot of it is defensive as a whole. When you look at sacks, when you look at fumbles, picks, I guess you can, boil down to the secondary, but it's really tough to say. I think this group, compared to last year, like you said, it's tough to definitely say that they're going to be better, right?
Yeah, but on that note, I mean, you just listed everybody. I think I would take the swing on this year's group.
Is it just a swing though? Like, I mean, you look at some of the names from last year, right? Like Ashton Davis, Chuck Clark.
Bad.
Like get those guys off my team. At this point, get those guys off my team. To bring in like a Cisco, AZ Thomas, even over Eccles. Like I'm taking that young talent who is probably going to be better, I'm going to say, than Eccles is from day one. I feel confident saying that. So I think you're replacing a lot of guys with better talent. And man, I'm telling you right now, Andre Cisco is going to be a fan favorite. I'm bookmarking this, and I'm going to come back and say that. So
yeah, because they had Tony and Joey playing safety last year. And one of my final points, I think it's so key that they are going to be a bigger, more aggressive group, because so many times under the last regime, we were just small. I mean, like they were small all over the place. Like DJ Reed's 5'9", I think. Tony Adams is 5'9", 5'10". Chuck Clark was a little bigger, I guess, but he was like 6 feet tall. I wanted bigger bodies to kind of be able to defend like the Justin Jeffersons of the world, the Jamar Chases, guys that are like physical receivers. And at the end of the day, like if they go over the middle, and Malachi Moore is really good at this too. He's a hard hitting safety, and he brings that nasty that I've wanted so bad. And I think Aaron Glenn's, I think that was kind of what he wanted too. I want these guys to be like scared when they come over the middle and they second guess. Like they're not going to catch a slant and take it to the house every time. Like they might get fucking licked. And I feel like we have some players in this group now where, okay, you're going to get jammed at the line. It's going to be really hard to get guys like Sauce, Stevens, and Thomas off of you to begin with. And once you finally get by them, you're going to have a better safety group. And maybe you're going to be thinking twice before catching the ball over the middle. And, you're not going to get licked. So I just think that the mentality is going to be so key here. And I think they did a great job of building this room with calculated risks. A third round pick's like it's definitely a swing. Like that's a high draft pick. Stevens, you could argue that they overpaid him a little bit. What is he getting? $2 million less from another team? I mean, he was a starting corner for the Ravens. And something else, I mean, you just have to, of all position group, you could think of like whatever you want of Aaron Glenn. This is the one room where it's like, all right, AG's got this one. Like, I trust what he's doing, because me, you, Joe Schmo on Twitter, they've never played cornerback at a Pro Bowl level in the NFL, and our head coach did, and he's bringing in his own guys that, want to what, man, like Thomas has that attitude of like Aaron Glenn, and I think he's like a dog, like, which I think Aaron Glenn wanted a corner that's like Aaron Glenn a little bit, and I think he got his guy there. Sauce, obviously, he's not like a dog, but like, I mean, he's one of the most talented corners in the NFL, and I like the room a lot. I think it's gonna be. On paper, it looks lateral, but I'm like talking myself into this as we're going.
By the end of it, we're like, we have the best cornerback group in the league.
Secondary in the NFL.
Yeah.
It's not that, but I think this is going to be a group that's going to have a different mentality. And because of that, you're going to see improved results. And this is going to be the entire team, guys. Like, we can talk about OTAs after, like, some of the stuff that's coming out of camp is badass, is like the way I would describe it. Steve Wilkes is an absolute OG. I mean, the guy is like, I don't know. I wouldn't want to mess with that guy, to be honest. He seems like a scary mother effer.
We said that about Greg Williams too. So
I mean,
I'm just
Dr.
saying.
Heat. I'm scared of Dr. Heat too, but like, whatever. It's just like some of the things that are coming out about this team, and it's just like so encouraging to hear. Like, Aaron Glenn pulled the team aside after yesterday, I think it was, after practice, and said, he didn't like the effort, and you just compare. I hate comparing to last year, but it's like
you have to
because it's like the most recent thing we have. And Robert Saleh, and we know this for a fact, like Robert Saleh didn't even do tackling drills in practice last year, and then you have guys like Sauce Gardner who they're running at, and he doesn't know how to fucking tackle the ball carrier. So it's like, okay, it's going to be a different mentality, not only in the secondary, but you can see it in the personnel with who they brought in. I'm fired up right now.
I know, I could tell. So I'm going to close it out here with 2 points. I think it's going to come down, like you mentioned a good point earlier, scheme, coaching. That's really what I think it boils down to. You're going to see guys like Stevens. Could that guy turn into a guy where Baltimore fans are screaming, oh my God, he can't turn his head around, to now this guy is sticking on guys and turning his head around and making plays on the ball. So I want to see guys like him that they brought in, maybe that have didn't have a great year last year, Cisco, that are going to ball their ass off this year and play really well. I think it comes down to coaching. And I think hopefully if everything works out the way we want it to, and I think it will, then we'll have a really good secondary. So that is all I have to say on it. And I don't want to keep harping on this because we've now been talking about the secondary for probably too long. And we're going to, if we go any longer, we're just going to have the best team in the NFL.
Right. So, shout out Rob Shannon. He was in my DMs. He made some good points. He predicted that he was very adamant that I shout him out, but I'm always happy to shout Rob out. That's our guy.
Rob Shannon's like an OG day one listener.
Day one listener. He predicted that AZ Thomas starts by week 6. I think it's going to be like week 8 or week 9, but I think at some point he might start. As high as we are on Stevens, I think he's really impressive, and I think he's going to win that starting job a little sooner rather than later. And yeah, that's all I have on the secondary. In terms, for a few minutes, I would love to riff on OTAs because what I'm hearing, like what I'm just reading and watching is bad. I mean, I watched Justin Fields rip off a run, obviously in slow motion, like everything else, and he's talking shit as he's running down the field. I love his demeanor, by the way. I mean, I couldn't ask for like a better attitude in terms of like, you go from an A-list celebrity, Aaron Rodgers, I am the team, like this is my team, like attitude, to Justin Fields, who's out here just trying, like it fits the mold of the team, of the secondary, of everything. He's trying to earn his spot, and it's very, very encouraging, everything that I'm hearing. And I think we have a Twitter question on Tanner Angstrom, so I might reserve my
let's save the interim stuff.
Yeah, but I mean, overall, I absolutely love what I'm hearing from what's coming out of One Jets Drive.
Yeah, I think with Justin Fields too, to add on to him, not only, he just got $30 million guaranteed. I know it's not a ton of money, but still decent chunk of change. He's coming in here, chip on his shoulder. I think it's a really great marriage for both sides. Can see like the Jets looking for someone who is, anxious to get in there, start, prove himself. And Justin Fields is like, F you, Pittsburgh. You benched me after 4 games after, pretty much giving you what you wanted out of me. I know they probably promised Russell Wilson that job, but yes, I do agree with you. I do like what I'm seeing out of Justin Fields. I think we should get into the questions because I think a lot of the questions will lead into some OTA stuff as well.
Yeah.
So let me start with Mr. Rob Shannon. Tony, thoughts on Engstrand so far in OTAs? Some beat reporters are saying how his plays are perfect against the coverage the defense is in. Yes, I know it's OTAs, so we cannot say, calm down, it's OTAs. Tony, start with Rob's question.
Listen, this is all we have to base off of right now, so I'm going to overreact. That's just what's going to happen. He has the moxie of like a good NFL coach. I think, no doubt. I think hold on. I think he has like the right attitude. You could see on the draft calls, he was the only one that was able. It seems like Muji and Glenn did not know how to handle draft calls, and Engstrom did. It's just like one of the few times we've seen him talk, but he has all the right influences, man. I mean, he's been taught from Ben Johnson, obviously. He was talking about John Harbaugh a lot during his interviews today, and I get the vibe that he might be a good hire. Like, I don't want to say anything before the pads are put on or anything, because again, we always get ahead of ourselves. But I mean, everything that I've heard and read about him, it seems like he fits the over. Like, everybody seems to be a hard ass. Like Aaron Glenn, hard ass. Wilkes, hard ass.
I didn't know if that's who you were thinking of. I can't read your mind.
Yeah, no, you kind of need a little bit of a switch up on the offensive side of the ball. Like, you don't need a hard ass on the offensive side of the ball calling the plays. You just want like a smart, young, up and coming play caller, and it feels like we got that. And I feel like we had that in Mike LaFleur a few years ago, and Woody needed to fire him, but it feels like we kind of hit like that same genre of offensive coordinator coming from like the hot offensive system. So I have really high hopes for him. I think he's going to be a good play caller. We have nothing to base this off of. He's never called plays, but he has a piece of clay in front of him in Justin Fields. And I think it's going to be very interesting to see if he calls the offense like it's Jared Goff at quarterback, then it's going to be like, okay, that kind of sucks. But if he's able to adapt and build like a run first offense with a quarterback that can run a 4.40, then it's going to be really interesting and if Justin Fields is great, he stays great. But like, if they draft a QB and they bring in a new guy, it's going to be cool to see him build an offense around that guy. And like, I just want to see a little bit more flexibility amongst the, like, who they have at personnel and how they build plays for them. Like, I don't know, like Baltimore does with Lamar Jackson. Like, build an offense around Justin Fields this year, and if one of it doesn't work, you can switch it up next year. It's fine. But I'm pretty confident. I think it's going to be a good hire.
I don't really have too much to add on that. Just want to say that if I was going to take a young guy, I would probably want it to come from the Lions offense under Ben Johnson. So super excited about that. With it being OTAs, I know you did mention this, Rob, but I really am not looking into it. They not even have the pads.
The plays in OTAs, I'm not looking at that much.
The pads are not on. I'm not looking at anything. And to be quite honest with you, after watching the Jets for so many years, I need to see it on the field before I say anything. So I will come back to that question in September. I'm going to take this first question. We kind of just touched on it, but how can the Jets make the playoffs with Fields? This comes from Justin Fields fan club. I will say, and I'm going to bring it back, if you want to know how they can, go watch the video from Friday with Hembo. But anyways, I would say that, kind of feeding into what Tony just said, they need to build the offense around him, right? They're not going to win games if they are operating the offense like they have Jared Goff sitting there. And it's not all about the offense, but we need to see a very strong run game if they're going to have any chance. And we're going to have to see the defensive line improve. And I don't want to harp too much on the defense. We just talked about defense for a half an hour, but defensive line was a weakness of this team. Run defense was a massive weakness. We cannot have teams running the ball all over us. We need to have an offense that can move the ball, push the ball downfield, electric plays, strong plays, none of this like dink and dunk stuff. I want to see us push the ball down the field. I want to see us run the ball. And I mean, again, you're going to see a lot of read option probably. You're going to see a lot of Fields running the ball. He has the best offensive line he's ever played with here. So I'm really hoping they can mold, and by they, I mean Tanner Engstrand can mold this offense around that kind of quarterback.
Completely agree.
Cool. Anything to add on that, or just kind of the same before?
I completely agree. Build the
Okay.
offense around Fields and have a top 3 rushing offense in the NFL, and I think let AG do his thing on the defensive end and Wilkes, and I think you have a 7 to 8 win ball club like we all would like to see out of a first-year coaching staff.
Last question comes from at JetsCast Pod. Thanks for the question. Not really Jets related, but I do like it because it kind of comes back to the Jets here. Tush push rule opinions, Tony.
We want it. We want the tush push now. We have a
Yep.
quarterback that looks like he can squat 700 pounds, and it's very funny. I don't think we didn't run a single QB sneak last year. I don't think, especially not a tush push.
Not with the old man, no.
Not with the old man. I think this is going to really cater. Like, I'm happy it didn't get banned because we finally have a quarterback where it's like going to cater to his skill set. I mean, you put Ruckert behind him. Who else would you put behind him? Like Braylon Allen. You have them pushing Justin Fields, who weighs like 230 pounds, into Tippmann, Simpson, AVT. That doesn't sound easy to stop, and it might not be the Eagles, but I think that play should absolutely be a part of the Jets playbook this upcoming year, and that's more than you can say from the last year because I don't think Aaron Rodgers ran the ball once last year. Maybe like
he had
a couple
nice
times.
runs. He had a couple nice
Did
runs.
he?
Yeah.
I don't recall.
He definitely had a couple nice runs. I do remember. I think
Old
one
man
against.
Still got it.
Yeah, he does a little bit. I think that even before the Jets got Fields, and I guess I'll kind of turn this into more of an NFL conversation, that thing should have never been banned. That's a completely legal play. If you can't stop it, that's your problem. Find a way to stop it. There's been plays before. And in terms of the Jets, like you said, I was expecting it to get banned because the Jets finally have a running quarterback that can run the tush push. I was like, this is the most Jets thing that's going to happen.
They're like, oh, the Jets got one? Yeah,
Yep.
ban it. Let's
See
ban
ya.
it.
Yep.
It's unbelievable.
I think that I'm super happy that they kept it, and it was certainly the right move. I think it would have been complete bush league if they would have banned it. And honestly, kind of surprised that they kept it because that's something that I could totally see the league banning for sure.
A legal play that is unstoppable. They want to ban. That made no sense to me.
Unbelievable. But yeah, that's pretty much wraps us up here for today. I know we went a tad bit long for just the two of us, but I know Pat wanted to be here to talk about the secondary. But like we said, father duties. Tony, any closing thoughts before I wrap up here?
I'm just super excited to continue the series. I like breaking down each position group like this. I think it's a good activity. And by the end, hopefully you guys are experts on, everybody on the roster. I mean, we're talking about Jalen Mills here. So it's like, listen, we got you covered.
Exactly. And we're going to keep going. We'll be back next week with an episode. We don't know, what position group we'll do next, but we've stuck defense twice. Maybe we'll switch over to offense. Definitely stay tuned if you want to keep up to date on everything, see the clips, head over to Twitter at @NYJ_Vultures Row. On TikTok, the YouTube's starting to pick up some traction. If you want to watch us, see our ugly faces on your screen.
Whoa, speak for yourself.
Yeah, I know. We get it. You're, tall. Tony was mentioning, of course, Tony's the one to be like, DJ Reed's 5'9". This guy's, we need to make sure Tony's tall. We get it. We know Tony's tall. We got it.
I would fit the Aaron Glenn's cornerback archetype in terms of height and weight.
Believe me, join a group chat with Tony. You'll know how jacked and tall he is. Anyways, that'll wrap it up. Thanks for listening to Vultures Row, and we'll see you guys next week. See you.